Hello, everybody. Michelle here. Excited to be here to talk study Bibles with you. So let's see here. I'm going to get everything up and going. All right. I'll wait for people to join me. Hopefully, everybody can hear me okay. And you can see my tabletop. So I'm very excited to be here today. I know Sue did her top 5 study Bibles 2 weeks ago. And I know she did an honorable mention, I do believe. So I'm going to run with that as well and maybe do a couple honorable mentions. And what I thought I would do today as well is I'll share my top study Bibles and why I like them. But then I thought, time permitting, it might be kind of fun to go back and open up like the top couple of favorite study Bibles and compare the specific notes for a verse in each one. So that way you can get a flair for the different type of notes that you may find in the different study Bibles. So I thought that might be kind of fun. And I am going to be using a passage in Genesis. My Bible study group recently went through the entire book of Genesis. Yes, we did a chapter a week and it took over a year, but oh, what a wonderful study to do. So, anyways, I'm going to use a very familiar passage. It's the one where Jacob or Esau gives up his birthright for a bowl of stew. So I know that's one that we're very familiar with, and that's in Genesis, I think it's 24, is what I'll be using. So, but anyways, so that is kind of the plan for today. And as I said, I'll be sharing my top study Bibles and we'll go from there. So I would love participation today. It would be great to see what you guys think and hear comments from you just so we can have a little bit of interaction. And yeah, so that's what the plan is. I don't see anybody on yet, so I'm hoping I can get at least one person so I can find out if things are working. If not, I'll just start talking here in a couple minutes because I know it is a busy time. And oh goodness, with these storms coming up, I don't know how many of you are in the midst of that storm. It's covering a big part of the country. So I'm in East Tennessee, and so I know we're kind of right in the mix of things. So um, yeah, right now they're calling maybe for snow for us, but possibly some ice. So we'll see. Yay! Hey, Katie. So, all right, can you hear me okay, Katie? At least you're the first one on. So, hey, Michelle, glad you're here as well. So, I always get nervous with Facebook Lives because you can't test ahead of time. I honestly much prefer Zoom because I can test everything and make sure mics are working and all that kind of stuff. But Facebook Live, you just kind of got to go for it. And then I'll wait for people to hop on and let you know that it's working. So if one of you guys can let me know. Oh, great. Katie says, hear me great. Yay. Oh, technology always makes me nervous, Katie. So I'm glad that is working. So all right. Well, I'm glad I got a couple people here. I'm sure others will watch it later, but I really had a lot of fun preparing for this. So, and I would love for you guys to pop in and talk to me while I'm going over my top 5 and just kind of learn from each other here. But there's such a plethora of fantastic resources out there that picking the top 5 was a little bit of a challenge, but I really like the list that I've kind of come up with. So what you guys can't see is right off to the side over here, I have a stack of, oh goodness, how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, I have 9 study Bibles, but it's not really that I'm showing you 9, so don't worry or anything. So, but anyways, yeah, my stack next to me is quite overwhelming. So hopefully my tabletop can handle all the weight of all these Bibles. But let's go ahead and open up in prayer, and then we will start jumping in to look at my top 5 study Bibles. Oh, dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the day and age that we live in, Lord, that we are so blessed to have so many resources available to us, Lord. Um, so many study Bibles and other resources to pick from. But I hope that you'll always remind us, Lord, that as we use these different books and all the tools that you've given us, Lord, that we should always start out our study time inviting the Holy Spirit in, Lord, because it's your Spirit that guides us and leads us into all instruction that you have for each of us every time we dig into your word. So may we always remember to invite your Spirit into our study time. But I pray that you will bless our time together today, Lord. And just on a little side note, there's a big storm coming through, Lord, through a big part of the country today, Lord. So I just pray that for all the ladies and everybody out there that is in the path of the storm, Lord, that you will keep us safe. I pray that power outages are minimal, Lord, that we will be able to stay warm and not lose power, and that your hand will just be over this storm and keep us from the worst of things, Lord. So please be, well, we know you're always present, Lord, but please just be with each of us. Take away any anxiety we may be having, and just give us peace. And we just know that you're in control, Lord. So thank you for that. So bless our time together, Lord. I thank you for the ladies that are here now live, and I pray that you'll also bless all those watching in the recording. We love you, Jesus. In your precious name, amen. All right. Yeah, Katie, I agree. No one can ever have enough study Bibles. So, okay, so Sue started out last week, and she had we have two overlaps, Sue and I do. So, what I wanted to mention real quickly was one of Sue's top recommendations was the ESV Study Bible. And with that, I just want to point out one thing that I have kind of discovered, and just want to let you learn from, mistake is not the right word by any means, but anyways, I love large print study Bibles. I'm 58, I wear bifocals, and the bigger the print, the better. So I don't know if you guys are in that mode with me or not, but I do love a large print study Bible. And ESV is definitely on my top list of study Bibles. I think just about any YouTube commentator out there will tell you the ESV Study Bible is, way on top of the list. It's just a workhorse, and I know Sue had it on her list. But one thing I just wanted to let you be aware of, which I did not know, was the Bible here on the left. This is the regular print ESV Study Bible. But as I flip through here, I should have maybe gone to a page where I knew things were, but the regular print study Bible is in color, is basically what I want to point out. So if you find a color map, you're going to find a lot of color in this ESV study Bible. So let's see, this is Genesis 39. So what I want to do then is, this is the large print, same exact study Bible, but let me go to Genesis 39 in this book. And here you will see the map in the large print. It's not color. It's all kind of like in these little shades of green in here. So I just want to point that out. So if you love color and you just don't kind of like the monotone kind of maps and things, you may want to get the regular print study Bible instead of the large print study Bible. I was not aware of that, and I got the large print, and I'm like, oh, where's all the color? And that's what I found out the difference was. So if that saves any of you spending some dollars on a study Bible and then you're disappointed, I just want to point that out. Some of the other study Bibles I'm going to be sharing today have regular and large prints, and all those other ones are the same. So if it's color in the regular print, it's color in the large print. It's vice versa. But the ESV, I did see that difference. So I just kind of point that out to you. So like as we flip through here, let me see if there's another example. Let's see here. Of course, now I can't find anything, right? So that's the way it always works. Okay, here we go. Here's another map on the Intro to Exodus. So if I flip over here then, in this large print study Bible, here once again you'll just see the example of color in the regular print study Bible, and just the gray, or the kind of the greenish gray hues in the large print study Bible. So other than that, they are exactly the same. The ESV is a workhorse, and you can't go wrong with it. So really, really excellent Bible. So All right, I see my screen spinning right now at the moment. So I hope that stops and I am not freezing up on you guys. So, okay, it looks like it might be back. So, okay, so ESV, definitely a workhorse. Sue also had mentioned the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible, and this is definitely top notch. Can't go wrong with the Cultural Study Bible. And lately, in the last 6 months to a year, I've really been getting more into context and trying to understand what it meant to the original people, because you often hear it can't mean something to us that it didn't mean to them, because the Bible was written to them for us. Am I saying that right? But it can't mean something to us that it didn't mean to them. So it's really important for us as we're studying to understand the context of what it meant to the original people that were receiving the word. So love the Cultural Background Study Bible. This is pulled out all the time, and love it. So, and Sue talked about this last week, so I am not going to spend too much time on that. So Sue and I overlapped on the Cultural Background Study Bible in the ESV Study Bible. So this, though, if oh gosh, if you could, two study Bibles would be like the bare minimum I think I could like ever have, and this would, the Cultural Background Study Bible would have to be one of them. So now the other ones that I think can, I don't know, I mean, I might be going out on a limb here. You guys will have to let me know what you think, but I think I have found two other study Bibles that really kind of give the ESV Study Bible a run for its money. And the first one is, drum roll, the NIV Study Bible. I really like this study Bible. I like it. I like the translation of the NIV. I always like to, as you'll notice as well when I share my other Bibles, they almost all end up in different translations, which is another aspect that I think is really important for Bible study. So NIV, so I have a different translation. But a couple things I really like about this, and I'll just kind of flip through here. I'll make sure I'm completely on screen for you guys as I'm doing my flipping. Here we go. There we go. So as I kind of flip through here, give you an idea what the front of this looks like. But what I want to get to is this little part right here. So what I like about the NIV Study Bible is in your notes, they have little symbols to tell you what kind of note it is, which I think is kind of cool. So the three symbols that you will see throughout the Study Bible is a trowel, and this points out references containing study notes that provide light from archaeology. So that's kind of cool. And this one here, kind of with the little leaves, they call it a seedling. It calls attention to scripture references containing study notes that have practical principles for personal application. So that's kind of cool. So you'll have application kind of ish notes. And then the third one is kind of like a character profile picture. And the character symbol occurs in front of scripture references containing study notes that provide descriptions and or characterizations of a person or a people group. So I think that's kind of cool that they kind of identify what the different kinds of notes are. So I'll just keep flipping here for you. So, and I'll just go kind of to the start of Genesis. Let's see, we got Old Testament. They kind of give an intro. So here's Genesis. So I know the ESV Study Bible gives a really good introduction, but I think the NIV does a pretty good job of it. And call me silly, but I really like all the color in this study Bible. The ESV, to me, is very academic looking, for lack of a better word. So if you just want to go for aesthetics, you might really kind of like the NIV Study Bible. So, but I do think besides looking pretty and then including some pictures and things, they do give a pretty good introduction into a book of the Bible. So you have an introduction, author and date, theme and message. You get a timeline. Here they give a whole article on Genesis and the cultural setting of Genesis, literary features, and then here you got your symbol kind of already appearing in there. And then you have a really nice outline in here. So this is really nice. And then you have another little article here on the divine name of Yahweh before you even get into it. So, I mean, if you're going to go to Genesis, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 page introduction. So let's just for fun go over to Genesis because I'm all about comparing. The ESV has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a little bit more in this one, but that NIV gave us quite a bit of information. So that was pretty cool. And then just to give you an idea what the study notes and things look like, I like that they have articles kind of separated and they're really popped out nicely so you can easily identify them. And then here, as you're going through study notes, you can start to see some of the symbols that you're seeing. And then some of the other things I like, let's see if we'll see it too much here in Genesis. Let me hop to a gospel because I know we'll see it in there a lot more. But what I really like as well about the NIV Study Bible is when you're starting a section, it also gives you parallel passages. So as you're reading about the Last Supper, right here, it lists right at the beginning of the section the parallel passages for where you'll find that in other books of the Bible. So I really like that they list this right at the beginning of a section. And the ESV Study Bible does not do that. They may include it in the cross references, but it's not pulled out right here to let you know you can go read the same exact story in this book of the Bible. So let's see. Michelle is asking who the general editor is. Let me see. General editor is Kenneth Barker. Now, I am not as big into the names that Sue was, so if any of you guys know anything about the general editors or anything, pop in, but I'll pause here for a second on this page. So Kenneth Barker is a general editor, and associate editors are Craig Blomberg, Janine Brown, Mark Strauss, and Michael Williams. So, yeah, so if any of you guys know anything about that, let me know. I do know, I love Tim Wildsmith. I don't know if any of you guys follow him, but he has ESV and NIV as two of his top study Bibles. So Tim likes it, I like it, but I had this way before I found Tim and discovered that. But anyway, so as you just flip through, they have really nice pictures, they have articles, really nice color maps as you're flipping through. And I like the colored maps quite a bit. It's really easy to see elevations and things too in the map. So I'll just flip here for a second to kind of give you a feel for it. But as I said, what I'm going to do is after I show you my top couple of Bibles, we're going to go back and look at some specific study notes in each of the Bibles and compare the kind of notes that you see. So, but don't you just love a nice color map? Oh, so pretty. So anyways, okay, so this is the NIV Study Bible. Really like it, and I honestly think this really gives a run for the money to the ESV Study Bible. Plus, it brings in a little bit of color. It's really easy to read, and this does come in regular print and large print. So, okay, so that is the NIV Study Bible. Now, the other one, oh gosh, this is a favorite, I have to admit. I don't know, I may even like this next one a little bit better than the NIV. I don't know. You'll have to let me know what you think. But the next study Bible that I definitely consider a top one is the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. I love this. So once again, it's a different translation. This is the New Living Translation. Me personally, when I'm studying, I love to have at least 3 translations open. For me, it's usually, I like ESV, NASB, NKJV, one of those more formal translations. Then I really like the NIV or the CSB because those are kind of both in the middle. And then I always love having an NLT open as well because it's more of a thought for thought versus word for word, and I love it. So if you kind of like the NIV, for color, whoa, you're going to be wowed when we look through this Bible. So this is the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. And when I get to the general editor page, since you guys were asking that, I'll stop here for a second. Let's see as I start flipping. Here we go, major contributors. Let's make sure I'm on screen here. The general editor is Sean Harrison. And then they show the Bible publishing team. And then here are all the other editors. Actually, they don't have it. Here's a general editor, executive editor, and different ones. But here are all the names of the editors of the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. So let me put this down, and I'll just kind of flip through here. But oh, I just think this thing is so pretty. Do any of you guys have this NLT Illustrated Study Bible? Put it in the comments. So Yeah, I'm with you, Katie. I've been using the CSB a lot more, and I really, really, really like it. So, um, that's becoming, I think it might be topping even ESV a little bit for me. I don't know. So, but okay, so back to Illustrated Study Bible. Oh my gosh, the pictures and illustrations in this thing are just insane. This is just explaining things. Um, but here we go. Here's like a timeline, and look at this, just starting out the entire Bible with that timeline. Oh, with all those pretty colors. Oh, and look at that map with the elevation. Isn't that cool? I am off on a side note here. I'm doing a class at church right now called Interpreting the Bible. And we were talking last night about often, like in the New Testament, you hear they went down to, a different city. And I think in our English brains, we immediately think like south or, that direction of it. But if you looked out on a map, you would actually see it was north of where they were. And you'd be like, how are they going down? It means literally they were going down because of elevation. So if they talk of someone going from Jerusalem to somewhere, Jerusalem sits up on a hill. And so anytime they said they went down somewhere, it could have actually been any direction of Jerusalem. It's because literally they were going down from Jerusalem because of elevation. So I think that's kind of cool that you can see elevation, kind of get a feel for things there. But I'll just keep flipping because we're not really even in the Bible yet. There just gives an introduction to the Pentateuch and everything. So, okay, so here is like the start of Genesis. Isn't that a lovely picture of Genesis? What I like about it too is they have the general timeline and then they show you where this book falls in the general timeline. They give you a setting. They give you a summary, and then here's like a timeline down here. Let me get a little more on screen for you here. I'll move that NIV, slide that out of the way a little bit. So they have a really nice summary, meaning and message. Israel, they have blessing and curse, just a whole bunch of meaning and messages. Then behind the text, they have authorship, composition, literary character, bunch of different things here, and what I don't see is a big outline. So if you're looking for an outline, we have a little outline here, not near as big as you would find in some of the other study Bibles. So if you like a more condensed one, like if you're actually going to write this as you're doing your book overview, you may actually want a shorter timeline. So it does actually have one here. So we go here, and then we have another page here, and then it goes into the text. So just to kind of keep it equal, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of introduction. So that's pretty decent still. So, but let me just flip here for a second. But what I love about this is I think the notes are great, and we'll see that in a minute when we actually start comparing some notes. But it's the illustrations and the articles. I feel like these are a lot of topical studies that get scattered throughout this Bible. Because you'll hear one here called Creation, and they have it listed here in Genesis, but then they have all these other cross-references that talk about creation, which I think is really cool. So I'm going to keep flipping. Here's an article on human sexuality here in Genesis 1, but then all the other cross-references for it. Got a nice little colored map scattered in there. Another article on a topic. Here you have Adam and Eve, so kind of a little character study here. Again, with other cross-references. And I just love this. I love the study notes in this. I think they're excellent. I love the character studies in here. I like the articles. And I love the illustrations. So here one you have on Noah. And then you have a picture of the ark that he's building. Another article. And then look at that beautiful color map. So yeah, just a lot of really pretty things to look at. Oh, and look at this, a 2-page spread on Abraham. I can justify that. That is definitely a worthy of a 2-page spread there. You get some charts and templates, more colored maps. Colored maps and things. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, just look at this. This is just fantastic. So I really, really, really like this study Bible. So really, really enjoy it. So this is the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. I think it is beautiful. And as you'll see in a bit, the notes are really great too. Now, one thing I really wanted to comment on this is, now you won't get the pretty illustrations, but Have any of you heard of the Filament Bibles? Let me know in the comments if you have. Um, it's an app on your phone. It is by Tyndale. I think it comes in NLT and, oh gosh, it's either NKJV or KJV. It's only, I think, in 2 translations. But what it is, it's a Filament app, and I'm using my phone to screen right now. But what it is, and you'll see why I'm talking about this right now here in a minute. So basically, it is just the text of the Bible. But it has a little symbol up here at the top of every page. And if you go into the app on the phone and then scan that page, it pulls up on your phone study notes. And the study notes are the same exact ones in the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. Isn't that cool? So, what I really, really like about that is if you just like sometimes having like a reading Bible and you don't want all your study notes distracting you, because I know if a study note's there, I want to go read it. So with this, you can just have your Bible open. They have this with cross references, without cross references. I think they have single column, double column, lots of different options. But basically, whenever you scan that little symbol at the top of the page here, it will have the same exact study notes that are in the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. So I really personally really like that. So that is really cool. Yeah, so that might be another whole thing. I talk about that app if you're interested. But if you just go Google the Filament Bible app, it'll take you to the Tyndale page. You can hear all about it. They'll do a much better job than I can of what that app is all about. But my main point is I want to let you know that when you use the app for the Filament Bible, that it is the same exact study notes that are going to be in the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. So, all right. And of course, this is a large print filament because I already said I love my large print study Bibles. Okay, I'm going to set that one aside. Now, I have my next favorite study Bible is, I think this is definitely up there in the top 3 or 4. This one is the CSB Study Bible. So, once again, really like the study Bible. I think it's very solid study Bible. I'll just start flipping. You guys were asking about editors, so I'll see when I get there. I'll stop for a second. And oh yeah, we'll have a lot of color in here too. Here we go, general editors. I'll stop right there for a second on this page and let you see who the general editors are on this one. So so yeah, Sue is better at names than I am, but I'll leave that here for a second to see if you recognize any of those names. But I think the notes in this are great. It has some color images. There's a large print version of this. But one thing, what I really love about the CSB Study Bible is they have word studies built in right into the study Bible. So what I have here is it shows where all the words that they have done word studies on. So you're going to have Hebrew word studies. I'm going to flip here. I'm still in Hebrew word studies. That's a lot of word studies that are in here. And then we go on to Greek word studies, and we have several pages of Greek word studies too. So I think that is really cool. So I'll just start flipping here again to kind of give you an idea. They have a whole intro, how to read the Bible. I think that is really cool. Let's see. Then they go into Old Testament. They have an introduction. But look at, they got beautiful pictures and things too. So if you're a color girl, I don't know, it's kind of nice. But once again, I don't think the intros are as thorough as maybe the ESV or the NIV or the NLT, but it still has a decent introduction. So it's going to have circumstances of the writing, message and purpose, contribution in the Bible, where it kind of fits, the structure, and it gives you an outline, and then a really nice timeline at the bottom. So we have that here. Yeah, and that outline's pretty thorough. It's a little more thorough than what the NLT had. It's really easy to differentiate the text from the study notes. The study notes all are kind of have a little background color to it. But then I'll just flip here for a second because, oh, look, on the second page of Genesis, there's one of our word studies, and that's what that will look like. It just pops right out, and it has that word study right in there for you. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't know why, but I love that the word studies are part of this. And look, as I'm flipping, it's like every couple pages, there's another word study. So look, there's another one. We have color illustrations scattered throughout here. The maps are in color. Really, really nice. So here's another color map. Yeah, so honestly, you know, I feel like the NLT, the NLT Illustrated Study Bible, the NIV Study Bible, and the CSB Study Bible are all excellent study Bibles. I honestly don't think you could go wrong with any of them. And if you want a dash of color built into them, you can't go wrong. So, yeah, so this is the CSB Study Bible. And that's probably enough flipping for that one. I haven't talked a lot about the backs. They're all very similar with having concordances in the back. Nothing, you know, really special or different about that. This one's kind of cool. It has a 3-year reading plan in the back. So if reading the Bible in a year is too fast or whatnot. But yeah, that is the CSB Study Bible. So, all right. So all these I've talked about so far, I kind of all put on a similar plane. These will give you really just great study notes to help you understand like the context and to understand, start giving you a little bit of commentary on the text. One other study Bible that I want to mention that personally I think is a must-have. It's one I started out with when I first became a Christian. I was, I think, 28 years old. But I love the Life Application Study Bible. Love it, love it, love it. So this is a large print one, what I have here. And so I will start flipping through here just to kind of give you a feel what it looks like. And you can definitely appreciate this large print here. I'll stop here on the editorial team. If you see highlighting over here, I was just doing a pen test because I was seeing what highlighters kind of worked in my study Bible. But why do I love the Life Application Study Bible? I like it for several reasons. There's, I think it gives a really good balance of, it does give you some contextual background to the text. It's not going to be just all application, but then it also gives you some application, which I think is really cool. So let me pause here for a second. We approach Genesis. You're not going to have as thorough of an intro, but you do have vital statistics over here. Yeah, Katie, I'm glad to see it was your first study Bible too. I think it was the NIV Life Application Study Bible. It was the very first one I ever had. But that gives you vital statistics, so really in a nutshell, you can see it. It gives you like the major themes along with an outline. It kind of gives you a little intro into the book. It gives you like a map with key places. It gives you mega themes, and then it goes into the study Bible. So yeah, still, I mean, not as thorough as some of the other study Bibles, but totally decent. So, and I'll just flip here. They got really nice charts. What I love about this study Bible is, let me find one, is they have wonderful character studies as you go throughout this study Bible. So I love that you have the characters in here. Very similar to, you know, what you'll find in that Who's Who book that I know many of us have when we're doing character studies. But you'll see their strengths and accomplishments, weaknesses and mistakes, lessons, vital statistics, key verses. So you'll have these beautiful character studies kind of scattered throughout. You'll have little charts in here. You got another character study. Yeah, lots of character studies, especially here in Genesis as we go through so many characters. So, but yeah, but the notes, as we'll look at those a little bit closer here in a minute, I think they actually give a really nice balance of context and application. And how do I use this study Bible? What I usually do when I'm first pulling out study Bibles, honestly, I will pull out one of the other big threes. I'll pull out my ESV, my NLT, my NIV, my CSB. But as I'm starting to get ready to turn it, and when I'm getting done with the interpretation part of study and I'm going into the application, I love pulling this out because it will give me another translation to reference. And then those application questions will kind of get me start thinking of, okay, now I know what this text I understand what it means to them. I'll also then be able to start to ask the question of how does it apply to me, and what can I glean, or what is this meant to mean to me. So I love pulling this out. Usually I'll do it a little bit more at the end of my study than at the beginning, but even the context notes in here are pretty decent, and we'll look at those in just a minute. But I personally think the Life Application Study Bible is a fantastic one to have. The other benefit of this is if you do like having the Application Study Bible, it comes in multiple translations. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it comes in NLT, NIV. Oh gosh, and help me out here if you have it in other translations. I think it comes in NKJV, maybe KJV. I don't know if it's NASB, but it comes anywhere from I know it's NLT, NIV, and then some of the little translations. So this is like the only study Bible that you can basically choose your translation that you want it in. So no matter what translation you like, you can just buy that version in the Application Study Bible and get all the same notes. So yeah, NIV is great. So yeah, but that's what's cool about this. So if you do like the Life Application, pick your translation, and then you can also pick regular or large print. And once again, whether you get regular or large, to me it kind of looks the same. So yeah, this is third edition. I think that's the latest one that's come out. I think some of the notes just changed a little bit in it. So okay, I just have one more to share with you before I start comparing study notes. So this one is a little bit different. I guess you call it a study Bible, but honestly, I kind of think it's something that maybe most of us should have. It's one of those you didn't know you needed until you had it kind of thing. So this is called the NET Bible Full Notes Edition. So this, I guess it's not really a study Bible because you're not going to get book introductions. You're not going to get all that kind of stuff. But what you're going to get, I'll just flip to the Bible here to give you a quick look, is on this page right here. This is the Bible right here. And this are all the notes. So look at that. So this is basically why they call it the Full Notes Edition. Tons and tons of notes. But I want to go here in the front to explain what some of the different notes are and why I really like them. The main reason I love this study Bible is they have translator notes. So imagine this. The people who are translating the Bible from the original language, basically, if anybody speaks a second language, you know you can't translate one language exactly into another. So I say no matter what translation you're using, you're still using a translation because you know in going from one language to another, you can't always find the exact word or phrase to explain something else. So what is so cool about this Bible is, imagine you get to be in that room with the translators as they're sitting there going, ooh, how should we translate this? And all the thought and study that went into it, all their everything they did to come up with why they put it that way in the translation are in the notes. So basically, in a way, it doesn't matter what translation you're using because you're going to see all the notes to help you understand what the original language was saying and maybe why they chose to put it into the in the NET Bible. But I personally really like the NET version. I think it's for me, it's newer to me. I don't know how long it's been on the market, but I like it. It's a good read. It's kind of in the middle of the road as far as translation goes, but these translator notes, oh my gosh, are just amazing. So just imagine yourself looking over the shoulders or being in the corner of the room with all those translators and just learning everything that went through their brains on why they translated something the way they did. They also have some study notes built into it. And then they also have some text critical notes. What's cool about this is if you get really geeky into manuscripts, which I don't know a lot, but I'm a little bit geeky, is there's different manuscripts out there. So like the KJV and the NKJV use a set of manuscripts, especially in the New Testament, that are, I'm not going to say different than the like the CSB or the NIV. I don't want to get into Bible translations here. Let me just rephrase this quick. Newer manuscripts have come out, and some of the newer translations include some of the newer manuscripts. The KJV and the NKJV don't use some of the newer manuscripts. That is kind of my nutshell take on it. But so these text critical notes is they actually discuss alternate variant readings found in the various manuscripts. So once again, whether you're doing KJV, NKJV, NIV, NLT, whatever, you're going to see the text critical notes on the differences from the manuscripts right here in this book. Isn't that cool? So oh my gosh, I just absolutely love it. So as you'll see, here's the translation team. I'll leave that here for a second. So if those names mean something to you. And then you flip, you're not going to get any book introductions. You just pop right in. But look at this. Check this out. We have 2 verses of Genesis here and then all these notes along with it. So it just is absolutely amazing. So yeah, totally different kind of book, totally different kind of study Bible, but just think of it, it's all the notes that the translators would have made as they were looking at something. So really, really, really cool Bible. So do any of you have this NET? Any of you, have you heard of this? What are your thoughts on it? I would love to hear. Put it in the comments. All right, what I thought I would do for the last 20 minutes is I've shown you a lot of different study Bibles, but what I want to do now is go to a specific passage in each of the study Bibles and show you the notes that specifically are in that Bible. So let's say you don't have any of these, or you have one and you want to add another one. I thought I would just show you what the notes say and kind of let you actually compare like apples to apples on a specific verse and see what it says. So that's what we're going to do. So let me go ahead. So if you have a Bible or want to open it, I am going to open to Genesis 25, and we're going to basically be looking at verses 29 to 34. And I'm just going through all the study Bibles and opening it up to those verses. So Genesis 25, verses 29 to 34. So, So Genesis 25, 29 to 34. Okay, so I'll just read the verses themselves real quick. It's a story we are all very, very familiar with. So I didn't pick something that was really obscure or anything, but it's basically Esau and Jacob when Esau sells his birthright for a bowl of stew. But I'm in the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. So 29 through 34. One day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness exhausted and hungry. And Esau said to Jacob, "I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew." And this is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. "All right," Jacob replied, "but trade me your rights as the firstborn son." "Look, I'm dying of starvation," said Esau. "What good is my birthright to me now?" But Jacob said, "First, you must swear that your birthright is mine." So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. And then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, got up and left, and he showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. So that's the passage we're going to be looking at. And now what we're going to do is just compare the notes in the different study Bibles. So, and it helps that I'm a little bit closer to the camera so you guys can maybe read it. So we're going to look at 29 through 34. So I'll leave this up here. So in the NIV study, this is the NLT study Bible. In 29, we actually get a lot of notes in here. So from 29 to 34, it says, ironically, Jacob proved the more cunning hunter. And this is the only study Bible that kind of pulled this out, and I thought it was kind of cool. The word cooking, which is the Hebrew word, and I'm going to slaughter this, so weyazed, boiling, sounds like the word for hunter, the Hebrew word tisayed. I shouldn't even try and pronounce those. But anyway, so the words sound alike. So cooking and boiling sound alike. So while boiling stew, Jacob was laying a trap for the hairy red animal. I don't know why I think that's hysterical. Okay, he may have waited a long time for this opportunity. This word for boil was also used for presumptuous action, like water boiling over the rim of a pot. Jacob overstepped his boundaries when he seized the promise for himself. By contrast, Abraham knew the promise was his and was secure in giving the land away. And it tells you to see another note. And it says Esau was exhausted and hungry, but his life was not in danger. And then it sends you to another note. And then for 30, it says Esau was preoccupied with his appetite. Being driven by one's appetite leaves no place for spiritual values. The text emphasizes this by using a Hebrew word translated give that was normally used for feeding animals. And then it says Edom, which means red. Okay, we still got more notes here. So Jacob was the better hunter on this occasion, but great danger lay in exercising such strong ambition. God's people should desire the things of God, but they must not seek them in the flesh, and it gives you a bunch of cross references. The Lord dealt severely with Jacob to purge him of carnal methods. He later received the promise, not as crafty Jacob the usurper, but as Israel, meaning God fights, with God fighting on his behalf. And that's quoting Genesis 32:28. And then we have one more note that says, Esau eagerly took Jacob's bait and fell into the trap. He ate and left too quickly to have been near death. I thought that was interesting. The final comment on the passage explains that Esau showed contempt for his birthright, considering it worthless, and it gives us another cross-reference to Hebrews. It is foolish to sacrifice spiritual blessings to satisfy physical appetites. So, okay, that is just to kind of give you, we'll use that as our basis. Let's just call it that. I think those are excellent study notes. So those were from the NLT Study Bible. So let's go over to the CSB Study Bible. So let's see what they have to say on these same verses. So we come down here, we have 29 to 34. So we have just one little section of notes. It does go over to the next one, and it says, Esau's impatient, appetite-driven life contrasted sharply with Jacob's shrewd, calculating character. Esau willingly traded his birthright, the right of the firstborn son, to a double portion, or perhaps 2/3 of the inheritance, with a cross-reference, for the chance to eat some red stuff. Because of his fateful decision, Esau picked up the alternate name Edom, which would be carried by the people group stemming from him, and because Jacob had made him swear to sell his birthright, the decision could not be undone. So that gets a really nice summary of the section. That's all we have for those couple of verses. So really nice high-level summary. Not bad at all. Got some good information there. But the NLT certainly gave us a little bit more. So I'll set that one aside. Now let's go look at our handy-dandy, tried-and-true ESV Study Bible. Let's see what it has to say. So, so once again, we're on verse 25, 29 to 34. I'm saying that more for me than for you. Let's see. So here we are, 25, 20. So nothing on 29. We have no notes. And we just got a couple little notes here. So 25:30 says, in Hebrew, the name Edom is similar to the word red. And then in 31 and 32, it talks about the Newsy text from the 15th century BC in Mesopotamia give evidence for transferable birthrights, mentioning one particular case in which a man sells his birthright for a sheep. Okay, so that gave us some new information we hadn't heard before. And then it says Esau despised his birthright. It says Esau was contemptuous of his special firstborn status. On the basis of this, Hebrews 12:16 describes Esau as unholy. Esau did not appreciate that his birthright was linked to God's plan of redemption for the whole world. And then actually I did miss here, they have a little bit of an overview, so I don't want to discredit anything that the ESV has. So it says here that this episode centers on Esau's dismissive attitude towards his birthright. While Jacob may be criticized for exploiting his brother in a moment of weakness, Esau is indifferent towards his firstborn status. He does not grasp the significance of all that God has promised to fulfill through the unique line descended to Abraham, of which he is the natural heir. So there we go. So we got this much of study notes in the ESV Study Bible. So as you can see so far, I really feel like these are all really comparable. I know everybody talks about ESV as the one workhorse, but some of these others I think are pretty dang good. So let's now go to the NIV Study Bible. Let's see what it has to say. So here in the NIV, we have nothing on 29 or 30. It starts in 31. So, and once again, we have symbols in this one. The leaves are application and a little bit of character. So let's see what these notes say. It says, sell me your birthright. In ancient times, the birthright included the inheritance rights of the firstborn. 12:16. We saw that same one in the ESV. Jacob was ever the schemer, seeking by any means to gain advantage over others. But it was by God's appointment and care, not Jacob's wits, that he came into the blessing. And then it says, swear to me first. A verbal oath was all that was required to make the transaction legal and forever binding. And then Esau despised his birthright, and in doing so, he proved himself to be godless. Hebrews 12:16, since at the heart of the birthright were the covenant promises that Isaac had inherited from Abraham. So once again, really good notes in the NIV. So I think the NIV and the CSB were, pretty comparable, and even kind of comparable to the ESV. Honestly, tell me what you think, but I think the NLT that I still have open over here had kind of the most detailed notes, I think. So that's kind of crazy. So really, really good notes. So big contender. But let's now go to the life application just to kind of see the twist that this will have on it. So let's see. So 25, 29 to 34. Let's see. Oh, wow. We got a bunch of notes in here on the life application. So let's see what it has to say. Actually, most of these notes through right here are for the life application. It says a birthright was a special honor given to the firstborn son. It included a double portion of the family inheritance along with the honor of one day becoming the family's leader. The oldest son could sell his birthright or give it away if he chose, but in doing so, he would lose both material goods and his leadership position. By trading his birthright, Esau showed complete disregard for the spiritual blessings that would have come his way if he had kept it. That's pretty good. That's really nice context, written in a very understandable way. And then it goes on for 32 and 33. Esau traded the lasting benefits of his birthright for the temporary pleasure of food. He acted on impulse, satisfying his immediate desires without pausing to consider the long-range consequence of what he was about to do. We can fall into the same trap. When we see something we want, our first impulse is to get it. At first, we feel intensely satisfied and sometimes even powerful because we have obtained what we set out to get. But immediate pleasure often makes us lose sight of the future. We can avoid making Esau's mistake by viewing short-term satisfaction in light of its long-range consequences before we act. Esau exaggerated his hunger. I'm dying of starvation, he said. This thought made his choice much easier, because if he died of starvation, what good was an inheritance anyway? The pressure of the moment distorted his perspective and made his decision seem urgent. We often experience similar pressures. For example, when we face sexual temptation, a marriage vow may seem unimportant. We might feel pressure in one area that nothing else seems to matter, and we lose our perspective. Getting through that short, pressure-filled moment is often the most difficult part of overcoming temptation. So I think this passage here was a really good example that I do think the notes in the Application Study Bible, I'll just say Application Study Bible because it could be any translation, give you good context, maybe not quite as deep as some of the others, but it is a really good balance of giving you some context along with some application. So those were the notes that you got in the Life Application Study Bible. And then the last one, just because we got to look at it. So but we got to look at the notes in the NET. So I'm probably not going to read all of these. Well, maybe I will, but I want to give you a flavor. But I'll leave this up on the screen and you can certainly read it. But um, really cool stuff in here. So, and I'll read a few of these for sure because I want you to get a flair for the kind of notes that you're going to get in the NET Full Note Study Bible. So, what it is as you're reading, you'll see a bunch of subscripts of letters and numbers. And so basically, we're in verse 29. So is following along, let's see. Oh, H actually was the tail end of 28. And then 29 is I'm reading the letter I right here is actually the first note that will be tied to the scripture that we're reading. So I'll keep apples to apples and I'll start with the letter I. So this actually starts with a study note. It says, Jacob cooked some stew. And this is what I think is so cool about these notes. So it says there are some significant word and word plays in this story that can help clarify the points of this story. The verb cook, which is zid, which sounds like the word for hunter, sized, and like I said, I'm probably not pronouncing these right, but that's pretty similar. This is deliberate. For the hunter becomes the hunted in the story. The word means to cook or to boil, but by the sound play with it comes to mean set a trap by cooking. The usage of the word shows that it can also have the connotation of acting presumptuously, as in boiling over. This too may be a comment on the scene. For further discussion on the rhetoric devices of Jacob narratives, it tells you what you can go look at. But that is really cool. I think the NLT brought in a little bit of that wordplay, so that's pretty cool that the NLT had that. Nobody else mentioned that, I don't think, if I'm remembering correctly. And then we go into a translation note. It says the rare term la'at, translated feed, is used in later Hebrew for feeding animals. If this nuance was attached to the word in the biblical period, then it may depict Esau in a negative light, comparing him to a hungry animal. Famished Esau comes in from the hunt only to enter the trap. He can only point to the red stew and ask Jacob to feed him. And then we have another translation note, and it's for K. So let's see, where's K? Right here. Is that why they called Edom, is where this note. And it says, this verb has no express subject and is so given a passive translation. Here's where we need Sue to tell us what that passive verb means. So get out your parsing notes on what they mean in Hebrew, but here it's giving you some of the verb tense and specifically calling out why it is passive, which is kind of cool. So then we get into another study note. Esau's descendants would eventually be called Edom. Edom was the place where they lived, so named probably because of the reddish nature of the hills. The writer can use the word red to describe the stew that Esau grasped for to convey the nature of Esau and his descendants. They were a lusty, passionate, and profane people who lived for the moment. Again, the wordplay is meant to capture the omen in the nomen. Let's see, then we got several translation notes here telling you what they are, and you can go specifically read those. And then we have another study note that says, sold his birthright. There is evidence from Hurrian culture that rights of inheritance were occasionally sold or transferred. Here Esau is portrayed as a profane person who would at the moment rather have a meal than the right to inherit. He will soon forget this trade and seek his father's blessing in spite of it. And then it gives another study note. The style here, in typical of Hebrew narrative, after the tension is resolved with the dialogue, the working out of it is recorded in a rapid sequence of verbs. Gave, ate, drank, got up, went out. So that's kind of cool, talking about all the verbs right there. And then it ends with one last study note. So Esau despised his birthright. This clause, which concludes this episode, is a summary statement which reveals the underlying significance of Esau's actions. To despise means to treat something as worthless or with contempt, as worthless or with contempt. Esau's willingness to sell his birthright was evidence that he considered it to be unimportant. So, those are some crazy good study notes that you get in the NET Bible translation. So, once again, yeah, great study Bible to have. Love the NLT. So here are the main ones that I talked about here. Gosh, the screen's going to be so busy. I don't think we'll even get them all here on the screen. So we got the CSB. Oh, and then we got the life application too. So what else do I have back there? Oh yeah, the cultural study background. So I don't know if I have all these here. If I had to pick top, okay, I'd have to have the cultural background study Bible. That one's a given for me. Honestly, I think I'd have to have the NET Notes edition. I really love that. And honestly, I think I have to have the NLT Illustrated Study Bible. I think I really like that. And I'd have to have an application study Bible. I think if I don't think I could pick top 3, but I could maybe do 4. And I would have them be these, and then these 2 right here, I think. If I had to only pick 4. And then what's cool about this as well is they're all different translations. So, well, I technically have 2 NLTs, but I could get this in a different translation because I do think it's important to study in different translations. So, but anyways, I had a lot of fun putting this together. I think we are so blessed to have so many different Bibles available to us. I hope you have enjoyed Sue's and I's giving our top 5 study Bibles, and put in the comments what yours are. I'd love to see what you're loving, and I'm always learning from you guys as well. So can't wait to see what your top 5 study Bibles are. But thank you for joining me today to hear what my top 5 are. Have a lovely day, everybody. Bye-bye.